This is Masters with Masters. The point here is to get together with leaders in the space community so that they can share some of their reflections, ideas, and thoughts with us, and have an opportunity for the interaction. And obviously this is a very special chance because we have this organized with the Young Professionals Committee, thanks to Stacy and the rest of the members there. So it's about the current leaders in space interacting with the next generation of leaders in space. So we'll get started that way. It's a pleasure for me that we have with us three of the world's leading leaders of the space agencies currently. Charlie Bolden, the NASA Administrator since 2009. We have Jean-Jacques Dordain, the Director General of the European Space Administration since 2003, and Jan Wörner, who's the Chairman of the Executive Board of the German Space Agency, DLR, since 2007. So we really appreciate your time because we know how busy you are and we know the contributions you like to make to the young professionals. So I'll get started as you think about some of the questions that you have. And one of the things that you clearly emphasize as you talk together and as you go around is the importance not only of international collaboration, but of personal collaboration. And you've worked together clearly for many decades in different capacities. So I'd start with you, Charlie. You started in terms of space, in terms of NASA as an astronaut, and worked a lot of international missions and projects and payloads on the shuttle. And so the collaboration has evolved as astronaut and as obviously head of NASA. How does the personal collaboration play out in terms of space and in terms of the work, and how has it evolved in the different positions?
Well, for me, the international collaboration is sort of instinctive because I think most people know I'm a career Marine. So from the time I left high school and got to the Naval Academy some long time ago, it was kind of impressed upon me the importance of being able to deal with international partners or international adversaries, because engagement is one of the hallmarks of any military service, at least in the U.S. So when I came to NASA and had the opportunity to get involved in international missions, which all of mine were except for the first one, it was really kind of a continuation of what I had been learning as a Marine. I find that what makes international collaboration much less difficult is if you do have a personal relationship with the partners, with the people, that it becomes something personal and not just business. And I think if you ask Jan or Jean-Jacques, hopefully they will say that, for several years now, we have actually been very good friends, and we count ourselves as very good friends. We speak very candidly to each other, sometimes more candidly than I think any of us would like, but we do not keep secrets from each other, and it makes the relationship a lot better.
And so I'll go to Jean-Jacques, and you started your early career in space propulsion, and so obviously this has been your life. How does the personal relationships with colleagues, and you've known Jan and Charlie for many years, how does that impact working together and international collaboration?
I think that there is no cooperation without personal relationship. I think that the people make the cooperation, not the technology. And I think that you have said that I have started as a rocket engineer, and already from almost the very beginning I was working in not in international environment, but working for a different country. I have worked for 3 years in United States, in what was at that time Rocketdyne, and then I worked in Japan, and after that I arrived to ESA, which is the place where you have no choice but to cooperate at ESA. We are 20 nationalities working together, so you have no choice but to work with your neighbor. But what I would like to say that in all my speeches I am saying that cooperation is difficult. because it's not easy to make several governments agreeing on something. And cooperation is slower than competition, for sure. But cooperation is much more sustainable than competition. Competition, when you know the winner, competition is over. That's it. While the cooperation, it may take more time to build up, but this is much more solid and much more sustainable. So anyway, the future is made of cooperation, and cooperation is made of personal relationship. I think that even if cooperation is difficult, it's mostly at political level, at programmatic level, not at people level. And look at ESA, 20 nationalities. When we are developing together a project, a mission, I can tell you that we have all only one goal, which is to make the best satellite of the world or the best launcher of the world, and you forget that your project manager is German, that your assistant is French, or that the mechanical engineer is Swedish. Nobody cares. You have to invent a language. We have a common language. The basis is English, but it's much more than English, because this is the Italian gesture, the French accent, all that. It's a common language, but we understand each other because we have one goal, and that goal makes that cooperation easy.
Right, the importance of the mission. And Jan, DLR has obviously worked a long time as part of ESA and with ESA and NASA. And how has some of those early experiences and projects, how does that shape what you try to accomplish, and maybe share with the folks in your organization in terms of the personal level of collaboration?
Yes, I think I can not more than agree with Jean-Jacques and also Charlie saying that personal relations is really the core point, but I have to say also some critical aspects in that respect. I was for 12 years a university professor, and it was very easy to have international cooperation and to say, okay, we are meeting and we are deciding, and the very next day we are doing something together. For instance, with Blacksburg, I created a double degree program for engineers. Very easy. We did it more or less on the table. Then I entered this new job, and I'm not an astronaut, unfortunately. I'm not a rocket scientist or a rocket engineer, unfortunately. I'm just a civil engineer. So I'm, even from that standpoint, I'm a little bit out of range. But when I entered the space area, I had really to learn that space is not only cooperation, not only cooperation of institutions, not only cooperation on a personal level, but it's also politics. And this is not an easy task, I can tell you. And if you come from this side, as I came, that means without all these political limits, you make many mistakes. You are always beyond the limits, which disturbs sometimes your home or your government, and I disturb them quite frequently. But I think we have to disturb because, and I think this is again mutual with all of us. We have some goals and we would like to do it. And Germany has some tradition or some history, we should better say, in space activities and rocket activities. But all of this changed totally when we entered to cooperate with the European neighbors, but also with the United States, when we sent Spacelab into orbit together with the first German astronaut, Ulf Berbold. I have to say the second German astronaut, because there was another one from East Germany beforehand, but with the Russians. But it was the first astronaut from Western Germany. So this changed totally the situation. And it was just perfect experience during all these years, and this I'm talking now about 1983. I mean, since then we have a very good tradition to work together, and therefore cooperation is the central point of future cooperation, of future space activities. And as Jean-Jacques said, it's more difficult than competition with respect to realization. In the Cold War, we had money. You had money, the Russians had money. Right now we are fighting for money.
And so to take it up to the largest level you talked about, and it's evident how you work together, the personal relationship is there, which must make both effective things as well as difficulties go smoother. But on the scale of international collaboration, which is increasingly the way science and space gets done, Jean-Jacques, you talk about the nature and the essence of ESA is collaboration. What are the lessons that you learned, or how do you, on that large scale, how do you work international collaboration effectively?
I think that, yes, there are some characteristics of ESA which makes the cooperation. We need some rules to cooperate, and especially to cooperate between governments. And I think that there are some key rules at ESA which are, in my view, very important. One first rule is that when there is a new program, no member state is excluded, but no member state is forced to be part of that cooperation. It's purely optional, and I think that that flexibility is a very important rule, because if you force all governments to work together, you have a problem. If you leave governments to take their decisions and to decide to work with a few of them or a subgroup of them, that it's very important. So that it's certainly the first rule. The second rule is fair distribution. I must say what people cannot accept is that they are paying for the others. That it's, I can tell you that among governments, it's what we call with NASA no exchange of funds. I am not transferring money to US industry, and Charlie is not transferring money to European industry. This is the same in the ESA system. There is no transfer of money among the member states, and that it's a second very important rule, fairness. The third rule is, in my view, and that is very important. It's to make a distinction between the member states and the executive. The member states, they decide. I don't decide. I have no power of decision. But on the other hand, I have the power of management. Because management by committee, I cannot imagine 19 member states managing a program. So what they do, it's they decide, and after that, I manage. And that, it's a very important rule, because if you are making a cooperation where the management is made by a committee, I think it does not work. I think that in any project you must have one boss and only one. So that this is some rules that which are important. The last rule, which is my favorite subject, is that we need always a leader in a program. Because a leader is a guarantee that there is one who is taking that program as the most important program. So I like to have leaders in ESA, and among the leaders, obviously, Germany and France are usually the leaders, but we have also programs where Italy is the leader, and so on. The leader is very important to drive a program. But the best quality of a leader, and I said that yesterday, and I always repeat that, and I have got that from Monsieur Tony Blair. Tony Blair has said that the first quality of a leader is to listen to the others, and that this is something which is very important, is that the best quality of a leader is to listen to others. So this is, in my view, some characteristics which makes of ESA a very successful model of cooperation. I am not saying that there is only one model, but I can say that this is a very successful model of cooperation.
Yes. Jan, I think you're going to...
I would like just to think about one point. You mentioned that the fairness is usually realized by no exchange of funds. I could imagine also that there is, in a special case, some exchange of funds, or that you buy something from another country or from another institution. Of course, in the overall situation, the fairness should be realized, but it must not be realized project by project by project, because then we are in a strict regime which may be not really progressively positive.
Right. And this leads actually to one of the questions we have, actually two of the questions, and it links to the importance of, having the rules, having the fairness, having the leadership. Two of these are fairly close together, and it goes along the lines of, is there a plan to convince the politicians, public, to spend more effort to support space exploration? And related to that, what are your tricks to convince politicians or governments for long-term funding? So that's an easy question.
We are getting more money. This is a good story. So we are getting more money. And DLR is at the same time a space agency and a research center. So we have, together with some other research institutions, we have a contract with the government that we get each year 5% more. And I hope that our actual situation with the euro does not change this. But we have a contract for the next 4 years to get each year 5% more money. And the tricks are not that complicated. You have to convince. You have to listen what is really, what is the interest in. For instance, in Germany it said space must have benefit. And then you can interpret what means benefit. And benefit means, for instance, also knowledge. So under this umbrella you can sell your ideas, and of course sometimes there's, even if you sell it perfectly, you don't get more money. That's not always the case, but this is the only trick I have. So if you're using really a trick, I mean a bad trick, you can do that once, and next year you're losing.
And I guess maybe the notion is, what are the techniques, or how do we convince society of the importance of space and exploration and science, the nature of the work of the agencies? Any thoughts of how we do that?
I think one of the critical things in convincing anybody is performance. You establish a set of goals, objectives, and lay it out, and then you actually deliver on that. And that's in our society, in the United States, in our system of government, that's very difficult, because almost everything we do is multi-year projects, which means you would love to have, if you're going to do something, for example, any human system is a generational project. We're not talking about a 5-year program or a 10-year program, one, because of the expense, and then the other thing is it's a generational program. We were with shuttle for 30 years. And we had to decide that we were going to phase shuttle out, and we had to decide that a long time, very early, in order to be able to bring that about, because of all the turmoil that everybody knows that kind of thing brings. I still think that was the most incredible technological achievement of any country in history. But in my belief, it was time for us to transition to something that I came to NASA to do, which is to explore. And so you have to make very difficult decisions, that you're going to take a leap from one generational program to another generational program. So, and I agree with Jan, that there are no tricks, because as soon as you try a trick, and even if it works, next year, then just be careful, because everybody will realize that you used a trick, and then goes trust. Integrity is really, really, really important to me, and I think it is to all of us. And I think one of our jobs is to be obstinate sometimes to the people for whom we work. And obstinate's a bad word. To be brutally honest and go in and say, I just don't think this is the right direction. I don't think this is the right thing to do. And then after you've given your shot, then you reach an agreement, and you salute, and you go off and do what's good for the nation, or good for the team.
And what is good for the nation, you have also always to demonstrate, not only to the politicians, but also to the public.
Right.
Because, of course, it's also a generation problem. If you start to educate pupils and in the kindergarten about space, it's also a generation aspect, but it works. And therefore, I heard that you are going to schools quite frequently, and yeah, so I think this is the right way, and I think all of us are doing this.
So yeah, we're talking about performance, demonstrating integrity, going out to the community. Jean-Jacques?
No, okay, we are friends, so we always agree. So, we have a meeting tomorrow morning. But tonight we agree. No, yes, we are talking to governments to get money, and as Jan was saying, at least at ESA, and Germany being the biggest contributor of ESA, obviously, when the budget of Germany increased, the budget of ESA increased. So I think that the budget of ESA is slowly increasing. Yes, the government, we have to convince them in terms of benefits, what will be the return of their investments. And that it's very important that for each program we have to present a business case. Business does not mean business in terms of money. It can be, again, knowledge, science, it can be international cooperation, but we have to demonstrate each time the value of each individual euro that we are asking from government. So that is one part. But the second part is, in my view, also very important, is to have the public with us. How can we associate the public with what we are doing? Because the public is important. Because the government, they are working on a business case basis. While the public is not working on a business case basis. They are public, they are reacting in terms of attractiveness, interest, even sometimes dreams. I have never seen a government dreaming, that this is for sure, while the public can dream. And this is the reason why associating the public is also very important. And just to say that 2 or 3 weeks ago, DLR has made, as usual, an open day of DLR. And by the way, this is the center where we have the ESA Astronaut Center. And one open day, 100,000 people.
And NASA was there with Sophia.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was raining like hell. And to have 100,000 people visiting a space center, that is something important. So I think that, yes, we have to work on governments, but we have also to work on the public, because the public is an important part of the promotion of what we are doing.
Right, making sure the public sees it, understands the importance, and connecting there. Here's another question from next generation leaders and young professionals here. What about having an interagency exchange program for young professionals? And the person drew a chart or a picture of, going from ASI, DLR, JAXA, NASA, CNES. So what about an exchange?
Okay, between the National Space Agency and the European Space Agency in Europe, we have that. We have schemes where we are integrating engineers, scientists in ESA, and they are going back to the national agencies or the other way around. So we have this type of exchange between the agencies, but even we have this type of exchange also with some industrial companies and so on. So we are trying to organize that. And even at ESA, we had an agreement with Japan, with the Japanese Space Agency, where we were sending. So the world of microgravity is more comfortable because this is
just the only one.
It's an attacking wall.
So we have this type of exchange. Now we can certainly do better. And myself, I would be more than ready to contribute to an extension of this scheme, and especially between ESA and NASA. We have a lot of cooperation together, and I must say that myself, I would have no problem to have ESA staff going to NASA and to welcome NASA young professionals in ESA. I think that would certainly help cooperation, because we have spoken of personal relationship. And if the young professionals are more and more accustomed to work together, I think that could help. So let's do that.
Yes, and we discussed today about possibilities to enlarge our cooperation in that field. We have some exchange already, and we will see what we can do in the future to do it even better.
Any thoughts?
I agree.
I mean, I'm a young professional. You want to send me to Paris or to?
Well, we actually, we don't send groups.
They didn't laugh.
Except if you look at the relationship we have with Roscosmos, we do send a group that's called the Houston Support Team. They go to Moscow and stay for several months at a time. Roscosmos sends a team to Houston, and they stay there. So it's essentially an exchange program because you go from your control center to another one and you work alongside folk. You're a liaison. We do it to a certain extent here inside, or I say here. We do it to a certain extent back home in the U.S. where we will take some of our young executives and move them on detail to another federal agency, and that usually works a lot for us.
Great. We have a question here. Let's see. And what is the best way for new, young, independent companies and organizations to cooperate with larger agencies such as yourselves? And the question is from John Spooner, Director of United Space Agency. So what's the best way for independent, maybe young entrepreneurial companies to work with the major space agencies?
Is it John?
Yes.
Okay. John, I'll tell you, hopefully there's somebody else here who has good news. The bad news is it's really hard because of the contract structure that we live under right now. We're unbundling. I mean, we went through this period of time in the United States where everybody thought it was a wise thing, that it would save money if we bundled contracts. So it meant that the only way a small business got to work with us was that they were bundled in with a large company. That's not, in my opinion, not always good for small businesses, not always good for a lot of the things you're trying to do. So, but today it usually is good for them to try to network as much as they can with the major contractors. And major contractors today are not necessarily large companies. If you look at some of the companies that we expect to bid on the commercial crew program, some of them are not large in size, but they're very experienced. They have been working with the government for quite some time, and many of them do look for smaller businesses because they know that it's going to take small businesses on their team in order to qualify for the contract. So I would say the best way is to try to find a major contractor with whom you can team and convince them how you add value to their team.
So as far as DLR is concerned, you have three ways to enter. So one is similar as Charlie said, together with a major company. This is number one. The second one is we have in the space agency part of DLR also special programs for SMEs. And the third possibility is to go together with the research center DLR, where we have also good relations with small and medium-sized enterprises. So there are three ways to enter into business in DLR.
Just to add one point, because we have the similar scheme at ESA and DLR, but one point that to complement what Jan was saying, because we are doing that together, I think that we have created business incubation center, DLR and ESA, and very successful business incubation center. And these centers are a place where we, the agency, we are offering a technical support and some seed money, but that's it. So this is a partnership where we find space agencies, banks, and when a banker is investing somewhere, it's good news because the people who are who are taking the smallest risk in the world are the bankers. I must say that if we were like the bankers, I think that we would never go in the solar system. But we have banks there, and we have other partners, and we are helping small companies. And I can tell you that this is very successful. We have now 6 business incubation centers at ESA, 3 in Germany, 1 in UK, 1 in the Netherlands, and 1 in Italy, and soon 1 in Belgium. So I think that this is also another scheme that which we are putting in place just to help small companies.
Let me just add one thing, because I don't want to mislead anyone. I was speaking from the NASA corporate position. If you go down into the centers, there is a possibility that your company, again, can market itself and get a contract as a support contractor or something like that in our centers. And frequently in the centers, that's where we do have lots of small businesses, lots of disadvantaged businesses who have certain niche services that they provide that they can do far cheaper and far more efficiently than, say, some of the larger companies that try to do the same thing. So I was speaking of NASA corporately, but we do have 9 centers and an FFRDC that are somewhat different in how they bring people on board.
Okay. One of the questions that we have is there are a lot of good activities that the agencies provide for students and for young professionals in terms of conferences and internships, and how do you continue, or how do they continue the ability to interact? Because the question suggests that it's easy to simmer out when you go back to your organizations and you lose some of those connections. So any advice for how do you maintain these relationships and these learnings when you go back to the actual work of your organizations and the projects they're involved in?
When I talked to a group of students this morning, my recommendation to them was, because they came here and they've been together for several days, and I asked them how many of them got to know other people in the group that they had never known before. And I think, they had at least made efforts to do that. My advice is, get to know the people that are here, that are in the group with whom you're working, and then exchange addresses and the like, and stay in touch. If it's only to say, hey, what are you doing, or how's it going? And do not be bashful about letting people know that you need help. Whether it's help getting a job. I get more resumes from people that I meet in passing, or who meet me for 5 minutes and want me to write a letter of recommendation. But that's okay. I think that, that speaks volumes to somebody who is really aggressive, really wants to get involved and stay involved, and that's what you have to do. If you become a pain, we'll let you know, because we either won't write back or we'll say, okay, I've had it, enough is enough. But I would say until somebody tells you to back off, you've really got to let people know that you're serious about what you want.
I think that the best way to keep contact, I think that there is enough informatics way to stay in touch. I must say that with the current, with all the current systems which are available, I think that no one can stay isolated, and sometimes I would like to be isolated, I can tell you. But I think that just to keep in touch, I think that it's so easy to keep in touch, and I think that this is the best way to extend your network. It's just to keep in touch, and I think that this is, I think, that what we have done, and we are always keeping in touch, and there is not. If we have a problem, I know that I can call Jan, that I can call Charlie, and this is the best way to keep in touch. So.
Yeah, DLR is, we are starting at what we call school labs, where we invite school classes to participate in hands-on research for a full classroom. And if you're here on our booth, we have a small model of that, and we are inviting every day school classes here from Cape Town. So this is step number 1. Step number 2 is we have what we call the DLR graduate program. So we have several hundreds, thousands of young students who get their PhD during working at DLR. And we have a special DLR graduate program to teach them also not only to learn everything about the rocket propulsion, but also about project management and other activities. And of course, we don't ask them every day, give me your address, I will call you every day once, please remind at DLR. But these young professionals should be also smart enough to keep the contact from their side. We have an instrument from that. We call that the Friends of DLR. So this is an organization, and you can be friend of DLR. You get all the information. You will be invited once a year for a big party and also some speech of the chairman. So there is some instruments, but still that needs the personal involvement. We cannot say we are still a kindergarten and we will take care of you every day. So this is a difference between professionals and kindergarten.
Very good. And just within a minute, because that's where we're at, final couple of questions had to do with, stimulated by what Jean-Jacques said as a key skill is listening. Any key competency that's essential for young professionals to be successful in this industry and in others, and maybe very quickly, what's off the top of your mind?
Search for the area where you think you might be very excellent, and then just go on, and find people who will support you where you need it, and I'm sure that works. You need some area where you can put your creativity in. That's what I would like to say.
Find the area where you have the passion.
I think that they are all, the young professionals, they are all much more competent than we are. I must say that there is an improvement from one generation to the next generation. So I think that I have no doubt on their competence. Myself, and this is based on my own experience, don't have any plan. Let's say I had only one plan, which was to become an astronaut. I failed.
I had the same plan. I failed also.
So I am Director General just as a backup. I could not.
Very good.
I could not be like Charlie. And this is the reason why I am so jealous of Charlie. But don't have any plan. You have a competence, as Jan said. You just go. Don't put any border to your reflection. No border, including geographical border. Myself, I can tell you that when I was 27 years when I went to Rocketdyne to work on the Space Shuttle main engine, but okay, it was fantastic, and I think that be curious. The most important part, and it's just to continue to learn. When you are not learning anymore, I think that this is the end. And I am still learning a lot. I have learned a lot from the previous generation when I was young, and I am now learning a lot from the next generation. But I am always learning. The day you feel that you know everything, I think that it's better to retire.
Okay, so be curious, have a backup plan. Charlie, the last...
I think it's military to me, and it's just, learn how to follow and take orders. And it's interesting that, a lot of young people today want to be in charge. And you can't be in charge until you've learned how to follow somebody, because nobody's going to follow you. And so it sounds simple, but it really isn't. If you're only trying to pad your resume and you're trying to see, how many jobs you can get for some reason, and you want to be in charge at every stop, you're going to have a rough life, to be quite honest. And so I would say learn how to follow and take orders and be a good contributing member of the organization. And listening that's the key to learning how to be a good, productive member of the organization.
Thank you. We're very fortunate to have such wonderful, supportive leaders who take the time for us, and let's please thank them with applause.